Pizza delivery drivers, what was the most effed up place you've ever stopped at? Oh, pizza delivery, Funny enough, out of all the jobs that I've had, I don't think I've ever been, at least not strictly, a pizza delivery person. I did deliver for one of those delivery apps. I guess I won't say which one because they might get mad. I mean, they shouldn't. I did a great job, but I did deliver one pizza. So I guess I have been a pizza delivery guy. Add that to the list, I guess. Story 1. One night I had a delivery to a pretty rural area. A lot of my deliveries are to rural areas, so no big deal. It's a loud car. But tonight it's drizzling and especially dark, so I'm having trouble finding the address of the house I'm looking for. So I roll down the passenger window and use my really effing bright flashlight, pointing it at mailboxes, trees, posts, anything that somebody might have their address on at the end of their driveway. So I'm driving along at like 5 miles an hour, pointing my flashlight when the beam catches a guy wearing a black hoodie at the end of an obviously long gravel road staring directly at me. More of a glare at me, really. But whatever, could just be on the phone or something. Then it gets weirder. I finally find the address I'm looking for and pull into the drive and hop out of the car. That's when I get the sinking feeling. No cars, no house light, boarded up windows. If you've ever been a delivery person, you know that this is the time to give up because you're about to get robbed. Right as I'm about to jump in, throw the car into reverse, and nope the F out of there, I see a man walking across the empty field adjacent to the property towards me. F. Now, I'm a pretty burly, bearded dude, so I don't worry a whole lot on deliveries, but this scared the crap out of me. When he gets closer, I see him very obviously tucking something into his waistband, what I can only assume was a gun. He then says in a thick, menacing southern accent, "Thought you were the law." I guess because of how I was scanning the addresses. I meekly pointed to my car topper and the pizza in my hand, and he says in the nicest voice you've ever heard, "Oh, great, thank you so much, have a great night," pays me, and proceeds to walk back through the open field in the direction of no buildings in the rain with his pizza. For the rest of my shift, I couldn't stop whispering, "What the F?" Strangest thing that's ever happened to me. What? That's such a weird story. I didn't see that really going that way, but hey, I'm glad that you're all right. I'm glad that you weren't robbed. But also, what an interesting person. I feel like I want to hear this guy's story. There's a book out there somewhere where this is either a main character or someone that the main character needs to go and see at some point in time. Because this guy's living on a different level. Story 2. First time to a huge mansion that was renowned for big tips, where you had to go around the back to a gate leading to the pool patio. Guy who answered the gate doorbell had been disfigured in some horrible accident. He had me wait while he got his wallet, so I got a good dose of the backyard where a raging party was going on. Candy being snorted, craziness in the pool, booze bottles everywhere, and it was like midday on a Wednesday. Guy finally comes back, addresses me by name, no name tag, and says, "You don't remember me, do you?" Knowing that I'd remembered those injuries, I realized he must have known me from before he got hurt, and I stammered out a weak, "No, I don't." His response blew me away. He recalled being in first grade with me at a local Catholic school I attended for 1 year. Then he went on to detail everything about class that year, the people, teachers, activities, and that his accident had happened during the following summer. He'd gone through a windshield and a head-on with a semi. I delivered there a few more times and hung out, chatting with him as long as I could. It slowly became clear that the party crowd was just using him for his money. That was fed up enough, but what I also eventually realized was that he was stuck in the last normal year he'd lived, and 20 years later had moved back. If I recall correctly, he moved away because his parents died or were severely injured in the accident. As soon as he was old enough to access the accident settlement, and the money was going up that crowd's nose pretty fast. I had no idea how to help him or even if he wanted help, and eventually started letting other drivers take that run. Never saw him again, even though it's a small town. Eventually, he stopped ordering pizza, and then I left for a job elsewhere, but would pass by his house when visiting my parents still lived there. Fewer and fewer cars were parked out front every time I went by, and the house slowly became overgrown with ivy. Fed up. Boy, this kind of just built into the plot of a kind of sad, but hopefully in the end inspirational movie. I don't know what quite to compare it to, and I certainly don't want to diminish a real life thing that you and clearly this person went through. It just, yeah, that's kind of a sad, tragic story, and I hope maybe as the parties went down and stuff, he was able to, find some better meaning in life and some happiness, because it doesn't sound like he really had happiness at that point, aside from the pizza, because, pizza always makes me happy. Story 3. Funnest job I ever had, but man, the crap I saw and went through. The most messed up delivery had to be when a woman answered with her huge, beautiful Siamese cat. I love that breed, so I asked if I can pet him. She says yes, I bend down. The cat purrs, rubs against me, all the usual signs of liking it. So I stand up to finish giving this lady her pizza. The cat lunges and bites me above my right eye and wraps all 4 limbs around my head. Panic, freeze. What the F do I do? What the F is going on? Why isn't this lady helping me? I grab this demon cat from hell by the front legs and just rip him the F off me. As I do, my contact lens pops off. All I can think is that it's the eye skin coming off my eyeball. I throw that effer down and just freak out at the amount of blood that starts pouring out of my gash. The woman brings me into her house and puts a towel on. I tell her she has to take me to the emergency room or call 911 as I can't see to drive myself. After all, it was her cat who attacked me. She drives me to a minor place. I get stitches and a tetanus shot. She foots the bill, never see her again. Boss wasn't happy that I missed the rest of the night or had another order in my car. F that cat. Story 4. I delivered subs, but one of our regular clients was an old lady in a nursing home who thought it was 1940s or something. She was super nice, but nobody would deliver to her because she would only tip you 25 cents because, again, she was living way in the past. But I loved to sit and talk with her, so I always volunteered to do it. The nurses would pay the tip if they saw me, but usually I only got a quarter. Her delusional state was heartbreaking. She was, for the most part, lucid, aside from not realizing what year it was. She'd give me hair and makeup tips, loved to talk about men, and always told me stories about her husband, but seemed unsure of where he was because she never mentioned him dying or if he visits. I was once tasked with installing a secure door on the Alzheimer's wing of a retirement home. There was a guy who kept coming up to me and asking if I would buy his horse. Every day for a week, he and I would bicker over the price, and every day he'd head off to fetch the horse going further back into the facility. Sweet old man. Thankfully, he was unaware that he was unaware. Good on you folks for delivering and engaging with those people because, it's tough enough being a delivery driver for the first person there, You're not making a lot of money, and if you're not getting tips, that's rough. But, to actually find the value in just being with someone else. And I always like to think in the brief time that I was working with folks in the Alzheimer's and dementia wing at a nursing home, that even though they might not seem to fully remember you, I still like to think that the interactions have an impact on them that does last and that they're able to, get some fulfillment out of it. Story 5. I don't know if this counts as fed up, but it always makes me laugh when I think back to it. I delivered pizza to a house where an older guy walks out in a robe sort of mumbling. I hand him the food, he hands me a 20, I tell him it's 24. He mumbles, okay, waddles back into the house, comes back and hands me another 20. I go to my pocket to get change and he slams the door on me. I also once delivered to an older woman who told me to come in the side door. The food is about $34 and she hands me what I think is $40 and is really sweet, asking me how I'm doing and all that. I get back to my car and realize it's actually $60 and 2 of the 20s were sort of stuck together. I go back to her house to let her know, and she says, "Oh, I know, it's for gas and whatever else you might need." I always remember that lady because it was such a random nice thing to do and really made my day. One time someone asked what the most I've been tipped is. I said $20, then they gave me $25. Story 6. I was delivering chicken, KFC, not pizza, but my worst stop was pathetic, really. I knocked on the door, I hear a kid yell, "Got it!" He opens the door and runs up the stairs, yelling to his friends, "The chicken a-hole's here! The chicken a-hole's here!" After which a crowd of about 8 preteens at the top of the stairs starts throwing change down the stairs at me to pay for the delivery. I asked if they could hand me the money. They laughed and just threw the quarters, dimes, etc. harder. So I picked up the bag of food, winged it up the stairs at them, hit the wall, and I split. Tell the boss what happened, and if they call to complain, I won't listen or apologize. I'll just quit if he brings it up. I found out later he did get a call and told them to get stuffed. Good boss. Flinging the chicken at them must have been satisfying as hell. I 100% support this. If you're a D-bag to your driver, you deserve whatever they're going to do to your food. Don't be jerks to delivery drivers. They're having a hard enough time getting by. And frankly, I think any business that has delivery drivers doing this, it's like you should be okay if your driver does something like this. I don't know, make him wear a body cam. And if the customer's a jerk, you just be like, good job, they deserved it. Story 7. It was outside of town on a dirt road with tall trees. Every house was basically just plywood shacks. There were broken down cars and trash everywhere. The entire neighborhood just reeked of a B-rated horror film. I found the right house and walked up to the door, but it was just a blanket, so I had to yell, "Pizza!" They came to the door and grumbled. It was a haggard-looking man wearing boxers and a dirty white tank. Something felt wrong as he handed me a bill that looked washed. I held the $100 bill with old Ben Franklin's face on it up to the light and could clearly see Abe Lincoln in the paper. They'd ordered around $50 worth of pizza and wanted change. He tried convincing me that he went to the bank and they gave him that bill. I asked him why the wrong face was on there and he said, "That's how they do it." I said, "Hell no," and drove away as fast as I could. We stopped taking orders that don't have street roads. Story 8. Someone ordered pizza for a funeral. There were a ton of people there, all somber and dressed in black, while I rolled up in my bright red, greasy t-shirt. Definitely one of the most awkward experiences I've had. You just reminded me, my husband delivered to an older woman who ended up dying during the time it took for him to get there after she placed the call, about 20 minutes. He said he showed up as they were loading her up into an ambulance, I think, and that the family was standing around watching, and he didn't know what to do, so he gave it to one of the family members who paid for it and left. Story 9. I didn't end up delivering the pizza, but the address was an abandoned house. It was around dusk, and the house was so obviously uninhabited. I could see trees growing through the windows, and the backside of the house was crumbling so badly I could see the backyard from the street. The instructions were to come around back. I double-checked the address after locking my doors, called the customer a couple of times, called the store, and told me what was up and why I wasn't delivering the pizza, and headed out. I mean, seriously, who would have been dumb enough to go to the back of that house? My sister got a similar call. She got to the house and called the number, and a cell phone lit up in the gangway between the delivery address and the next house. Some idiot was waiting to rob her, and he had his phone out. Thankfully in the time where I was delivering food on the app, dashing around, one might say, I never had any really shady drop-offs or anything like that. But folks, if you're doing food delivery and something definitely seems wrong like that, and you try and call the customer and they don't answer the phone, that's kind of on them at that point, you know? Hey, if you know that you're living at the end of an abandoned block with no streetlights and stuff, and you don't prepare the driver for that and you don't have your phone available, no food, sorry. Delivery drivers, be safe. Story 10. I once delivered to a guy living under his porch, if that counts. I drove up to the house, it's pitch black, no lights on. I look at the ticket and it says, "Use the back door." I go up the steps and no lights on, nothing. Then I hear a voice from below me say, "Hey, down here." I look under the porch and there's a small door leading into what looked like a makeshift apartment. I had to actually crouch to get to it. Gave the guy the pizza and bounced the F out of there. The house I used to live in had a guy living under the front porch. Definitely not a legal suite, but hey, there's a housing shortage up here in Vancouver, so you take what you can get. He lived there for 10 years before the new owners bought the house and renovated all of us. I looked into his place shortly before we moved, and it was super weird. Huge spider webs, very dusty. The shower and toilet were under the stairs that led up to the main part of the house. Goblins need pizza too. Story 11. I worked at Domino's, and we had to blacklist a guy because he was obsessed with me. He would come in and ask if I was there. If I wasn't working that day, he would just show up the next day. If I was on a delivery, he'd wait around in the store for me. He would tell me that he loved me and ask me out on dates. He was very bad on heroin and made it obvious. The last time I delivered to his house, he ordered about $40 worth of food and drinks and kept trying to hand me $100 even though I told him numerous times I didn't have the change. He apparently stole his grandma's cell phone and wouldn't give it back, and he and his cousin were screaming at each other the whole time I'm waiting to get these smaller bills he kept telling me he had. He had nothing smaller than $100, and he kept arguing with me because he changed his mind and just wanted one pizza and a drink, and I told him I couldn't do that. Any manager, owner of a place that delivers food, we're just dealing with customers. If a customer starts doing this to one of your employees, you file charges or something. You get restraining orders or whatever. No customer's business is worth the safety of your employee, because this is crossing a line. Absolutely. And yeah, no, the customer has no right to treat your employees that way. And employers, you need to stand up for your employees. So yeah, just be better, Domino's. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.